A bridge on I-40 in East Tennessee has now been renamed after President Donald Trump. It was unveiled this morning in Dandridge, which is in Jefferson County. U.S. Secretary of the Treasury Scott Bessent was joined by a number of state officials, including Senator Marsha Blackburn. There, she touched on the importance of I-40 to the state and county as a major connector and said President Trump wants to keep America growing and moving. Thanked him even for helping the state recover from Hurricane Helene.
President Donald J. Trump wants to keep America moving, keep America growing, get transportation moving, and this project is a part of that.
Lawmakers passed a bill which changes the name of several roads in the state. More than 40 stretches of roadway in the state will be renamed to honor several impactful or well-known Tennesseans.